just wants my body. I know your body. Just wants my body. I know your body. Just wants my body.
And it is time again for some more late Friday night hacking. If you're watching this live, it means you also don't have a life. So welcome to the party. We're going to continue to learn how to hack stuff. So super happy to have you hanging out with me. Do want to let you know I am live right now on 3 different platforms. You can watch on whatever platform works best for you. But I am live on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Twitch. On YouTube and LinkedIn, you can just find me under my name, Tyler Ramsby. And over on Twitch, you can find me under the handle hack_smarter. Once again, hack_smarter over in the Twitch verse. We already got some good stuff in chat We got Austin asking, how do we derail the stream tonight? Not going to happen. Well, I have plans. I have labs that we're going to do. We're not just going to do an AMA this time, although that was fun. That was fun last night doing the AMA and just hanging out. But we are going to do a hands-on keyboard, do some hacking stuff. So hello to everybody over in chat on YouTube. We got Zach, we got Austin, we got Vin, we got Kelvin. And a bunch of other people who just haven't said anything in chat. Over on Twitch, we got Doc G Money, Germ666, Reckless Gizmo, Roll 4 Combat. Roll 4 Combat says, I hate you, but I'm here. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad you're here, even though you hate me. It's good to have you hanging out. And we have Believe over there. We have Zachario over on YouTube popping into chat. There's probably people on LinkedIn as well, but I can never see the LinkedIn chat. So those of you on LinkedIn, hi. I'll see your comments after the stream for some reason, not during the stream, because that doesn't make sense. We got more people in chat on YouTube. Barlito, if I'm saying that right, and Kodish. Good to have all of you here. The plan for today is I want to showcase some labs from Cyber, which if you haven't heard me talk about Cyber, I have a whole video about Cyber, but it's a platform to learn AWS. I'm going to showcase some labs from there. Then we might do some Pwn labs, or we're going to do some cloud hacking stuff, I think, this evening. Oh, man, Austin just joined the membership. Yo, Austin. Thank you, my friend, for becoming a member over on YouTube. Welcome to the party, pals. They would say in Simply Cyber, welcome to the membership. And thank you for doing that, because I always forget to say, if you guys do appreciate my content, there's a few different ways you can support me. One is to show up. Like, it's awesome just to have you here. But if you are financially able, you can also become a member over on YouTube. I have 2 different membership levels, $5, $10 a month. But to be clear, you don't get anything special, because I don't believe in paywalls. It's just a way to show your support for what I do. And also on YouTube, you can do a one-time gift via a super chat. Over on Twitch, you can become a subscriber on Twitch for what, I don't even know what the fee is to be subscribers over there, but you can be a subscriber over on there. And LinkedIn, well, you can just watch me. So either way, good to have you all here. I appreciate everyone being here. Germ says, I've been in bed for an hour and a half, deaf, no life. That's what's up. I just got done doing some boxing, getting some exercise in. Zach said, how much would I sell my cat? Bro, I'll pay you to take my cat. My cat drives me crazy. I don't know where it's at. Okay. You can have my Prime sub on the 10th. All right, sweet. Bet, dude. I appreciate the Prime sub. If I haven't been lied to, YouTube is a bit better about the monetization. So, but to be honest, I don't even know myself personally how all the monetization stuff works between the different platforms. Either way, it's just a cool way to show support. Do I box every Friday? I try to box about 5 days a week, but like most of that time it's just me at home. Like I have a heavy bag and I do some VR stuff, but I can get a pretty decent work in just on my own. But then once a week I go to the gym, and that's when I do like sparring and everything with other boxers. But yeah, I try to box 4 to 5 times a week. Reckless Gizmo said, Tyler Ramsby and John Hammond creator clash. Dude, if there's ever a creator clash between InfoSec creators, I will win. Hands down. If there's a creator boxing match between all the streamers, I'll put my hat in the ring right now. I will beat every single one of them. If anyone wants to test my words when I'm at DEF CON in Las Vegas, if there's any other content creators who want to test that, we can find a boxing gym in Vegas and we can step into the ring and spar. But I assure you, if there is a creator clash, I will win every single match. Hands down. Not in a hack-off, though. If it's a hack-off, I'll get pwned by John Hammond. But we couldn't box, dude. John Hammond's very short compared to me. If you've ever met him, he's not too tall. I'm like 6'2", 230 pounds. There's no way we could be in the same weight class in a boxing match. But okay. Y'all are already distracting me. We're going to dive into the labs. Before we dive into it, though, before I start recording, if you missed my one video on Cyber, I'll give you a quick showcase of Cyber here. It's just cyber.com. If I go over to pricing, there was a deal for a while. Let me see if it's still going. Oh, you missed out on the deal. It was only $8 a month for a while. There was a special deal going on. for cyber, but even at $10.75 a month, super affordable for everything you get access to. But I'm going to showcase stuff today that's completely free. So if you want to follow along, go to cybr.com, cybr.com, and make an account, because once again, the labs I'm going to showcase today are completely free. You do not need a subscription to Cyber to go through these labs with me, but I will show you some of the stuff. If you do get a subscription, what's really cool about it, I'll just go back to my dashboard here. If I go to courses, your subscription gives you access to all of these courses. The one that I just finished is right here. Introduction to AWS Security. Covers a lot of really good content. You can see I completed it. I can even show you guys. Can I pull it back up? Well, you can see it all right here. All the content, and these are high quality video courses with a text component if you want to read. So it has both video or text, but also demos. All the hands-on demos, for the most part, you don't even have to use your own AWS account. It's one-click labs. You click it, it actually creates an AWS account for you, provides you the login and the creds, and you can do all the labs in the Sandbox AWS account, so you don't have to worry about being charged. And I also interviewed Christoph, who's the founder of Cyber, on my YouTube channel. So if you missed that, you can check it out. But just a little bit of context on what Cyber is before we dive into labs and before I start recording. All right, what's going on in Twitch chat? In between rounds, we do CTFs. That's what we do. We do boxing and then CTFs back and forth. It's like, yeah, you go back, maybe 3 minutes of boxing, and then the next round is 3 minutes of CTFs. Nefla said, I signed up for Cyber after your last videos. I still remember Christian, I think you mean Christoph, when he was at Linux Academy, and the platform is awesome. Yeah, he's done a really incredible job with it. Zach said, I'll take you on a jiu-jitsu match. Bet, dude, if you're going to be at DEF CON, I'll do that. I can train jiu-jitsu for a few months before I go to Vegas, and I'll happily roll with you. But if I do jiu-jitsu with you, you have to box with me. That's the only guarantee. Love that we're all involved in some form of combat sport. Yeah, combat sports are awesome. I've noticed like people who, it seems like gamers and people who like strategy get involved with combat sports. Like I'm not a violent individual at all by any means, but love boxing, love the sport of it. But okay, I'm going to start recording for YouTube, and then I'll show, actually I'm going to get one of these labs started, then I'll explain everything with the lab. It just takes a couple minutes to start up, and I don't want to be waiting around, but I'm going to show some of the basics lab stuff. You know, maybe actually I'll wait to click that because then I'll showcase how it all works, and I can talk enough that it won't be an odd pause. All right, drink of water, and we're gonna start recording. So tonight we don't get a room. No, not yet. Maybe we'll get one. I started doing, all right, before I dive into this, I actually really want to know, has anyone done the brand new room on TryHackMe just released today called Airplane? Of course, 0 day, and people have pwned it. There's my score of 0. I spent just a little bit offline poking at this room. I got file read on it. Like literally within 5 minutes, I had full file read. But everything that I normally can do with file read to get a shell does not work. Like I can even read like proc environ. I know who have the file read as, and SSH is on the machine, but there's no keys anywhere, like no SSH keys. I even found the application source code. Like I found some cool stuff, but nothing that actually gets me fully in with a shell. And although I'm logged in as a user, they must have put user.txt in some strange location because it's not like in the user's home folder. But if anyone has done this, I hate being stuck. So if you figure out how to at least get initial access, I will be forever grateful if you DM me what I'm missing. But like I said, file read I had in like literally 5 minutes. I had full file read, but I can't for some reason get to the next level on this. I'll have to come back to it after sleeping tonight. I just spent a little bit of time on that today. But I'm definitely not going to do that on stream. We're not going to spend the entire stream me yelling at my screen. But let me go ahead. We'll switch to full cam. I'm going to start recording for YouTube. Actually, let me remember what lab we're doing here. I think it's like an introduction. This is for those of you who are pretty new to AWS. This lab right here. And like I said, free. Make a Cyber account and you can follow along. Here we go. Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another video. If you've been following my YouTube platform for any length of time, you know that I have a lot of cloud content that I've worked through, different cloud labs for learning cloud pen testing on AWS and Azure. And I think I did one GCP lab. I need to learn more about GCP, but I know when I'm working through those labs, it's super confusing to follow because I kind of assume you have this introductory knowledge to AWS, which I know many people do not, because AWS is confusing. The names I use are confusing. The command line interface is confusing. The commands you need to know are confusing. And so in this video, I want this video to be an introduction to getting started with the AWS CLI, or the command line interface. So if you're brand new to AWS, or maybe you've just dabbled in it a little bit in the console but know very little about the CLI and you want a detailed explanation of it, hey, this video is for you. And I want to give hats off, if I had a hat on, to the Cyber platform. CYBR, Cyber platform. I interviewed the founder, Christoph, a while ago and made a video about this platform not too long ago as well, and want to showcase some of their completely free labs to help people get started with AWS. So once again, the lab I'm going to go through today is completely free. You do not need a sub to Cyber to go through it. If you enjoy it, I recommend a sub. It's super affordable, gives you access to a bunch of content, but I won't repeat myself. You can watch my video about it. And also, it feels weird that I have to say this, but this is not a sponsored video. If you know me, you know that I don't make sponsored videos. So Cyber is not paying me, sponsoring me, or anything to make this video. Matter of fact, when I first interviewed Christoph, they actually offered me a free membership to Cyber, just kind of as a partnership. And I told them, no, I want to pay for it myself. I want to support what you guys are doing. And I don't want to have a bias when I talk about your platform. So not only do they not pay me, I bought a membership myself so I could work through the labs, work through the courses on their platform, and I've really enjoyed it. And I think these labs are super helpful for those who are new to AWS. So without any further ado, let me go ahead and share my screen. I'm going to jump back over to the dashboard. So here is a dashboard when you first get logged in. I will just say, if you get a subscription, I'll showcase this super quick, but with this sub, you do get access to all of their courses, and they're super high quality, hands-on demos. I just completed all of this course, Introduction to AWS Security, 74 lessons, went through the whole thing, and I highly recommend that. Excited to dive into the other courses, but a subscription really is worth it. They had a deal for a while where it was only $8 a month, but now, as of this recording or this live stream, it's $10 a month. It's still super affordable to do the yearly. So that's what I did. I just did $129 to get a full year membership. But once again, what I'm going to showcase today, you do not need a membership for. So if you're watching this after the fact on YouTube and you want to follow along, go ahead and pause this video and go make an account on Cyber, and you're able to follow along. No money needed, no subscription needed. You can do this right alongside of me. But to get to the lab, we're going to go up to Learn right here, and we're just going to click Hands-on Labs. We'll view our list of labs down here, and I want to begin with this very introductory lab on getting started with the AWS CLI. So let's go ahead and click that lab. And here's the cool thing about this. You don't have to even create your own AWS account. I'm just going to click Start Lab, and it's going to do a one-click lab. It's going to spin up a real AWS environment for us to interact with, and we'll even jump down while this loads because the first part doesn't need the lab. So let's just go through this slowly, and I'll do my best to explain it and do alongside of you. Let me zoom in a little bit here. So first things first, if you don't already have the AWS CLI installed on your machine, and let me explain what this is. When it comes to AWS, you can manage resources in really two ways. You can use the console, which is like a web application graphical interface where you can manage AWS resources, and you can use the AWS CLI, or the command line interface within your terminal. Now, the reason it's important to know how to use the CLI is there are certain things that you can only do in the CLI that the same functionality isn't in the console, or it's a lot more difficult to do it in the console. Additionally, if you get into a DevOps, cloud engineer, sysadmin, pen testing, any kind of those roles, you're going to be making scripts, working on automation, and you need to know the AWS CLI as well as the Boto Core library through Python, but maybe we'll get to that in another lab. But you need to know the AWS CLI to understand the basics of automating things in the cloud. So this is really important to know if you want to get started with AWS, either red team, blue team, whatever it is. This this will be important. But of course, the first thing to do is to install the AWS CLI. Now, you can go to this page. It'll depend if you're doing this on Windows, Linux, what version of Linux. But I'm going to assume many of you are probably doing this in Kali. And it's super easy to install this in Kali. You just open up your terminal, sudo apt install AWS. I think it's like that. Let's see if I'm right. There we go. Sudo apt install AWS CLI. We'll give it a second. We'll see if it breaks my previous install of it. I think I installed it a different way when I first installed it. I didn't use the app package manager, but should be fine either way. I meant to say version. And there, if you do AWS -- version, you know that it worked. Although, it for some reason put an old version of the AWS CLI on here. I wonder if my packages are not updated. It should be AWS CLI 2.0 something. If you have the same issue, let me go and do sudo apt remove AWS CLI. Okay, so is this installing that? Which AWS? I'm just going to do this the ghetto way. User local bin AWS. Oh. That's what I meant to do. Totally not the proper way to do it. Oh. Okay. Sudo remove home Tyler local bin AWS. Is there more? Okay. Now let me try it. I think I screwed up my install because I had all these different versions of AWS CLI installed from various labs. We'll see if it works this way. If it doesn't, I'll show you how to do it directly through AWS. But hey, at least we'll show it a few different ways as we dive into this lab. Looking over at chat, Neflo said, only downside I found with that is you don't get the AWS completion. Oh, you don't? I didn't even realize that. That's good to know. Oh, so that's doing the old version. Okay, well, I take my words back. Maybe don't install it via the app package manager. Instead, let's do it via the documentation here. Which this is also super easy. It is just, you literally copy and paste it. So install or update the AWS CLI. We, of course, want to install it. And it says to install the AWS CLI, run the following commands. You can quite literally copy and paste this. Give it a second. It should install actually the latest version of the AWS CLI instead of the 1 point whatever version. Oh. Let's do update flag. It wants me to do the update flag because it discovered my older version of it. I really jacked up my install here by trying to show you guys how to install it via the app package manager. This should fix it though. There we go. All right. It took me longer than one would think. But if you had a weird issue with me, like me, at least I showed you how to solve that issue. You do, when you do AWS version, you do want it to be a 2 point something. The 1.0 is the old version of the AWS CLI, and you might be missing some features there. So just make sure it's 2 point something, and you are good to go. And lesson learned, just follow the documentation. Don't try to use the app package manager, apparently. The documentation does it a lot better. Blah, blah. If yours doesn't start with AWS CLI 2 like mine, instead of a 1, that means you're using version 1, right? And we just upgraded it from version 1 after I accidentally installed version 1 over my version 2. Very confusing. But if we... Oh, lab failed to load. Come on. While I'm trying to showcase the lab. Let me try this again. I've literally never had that happen before, and I've done quite a few of these labs. I've never had it tell me it failed to load. It is the curse, my friends, of live streaming. The moment you jump on stream, something is not going to work. But we can keep on reading through here how to configure the CLI with access keys. So this, we won't be able to do this quite yet. We have to wait for this lab to hopefully launch for us, but we can explain a little bit about what access keys are. So to get programmatic access, or access via the command line interface on AWS, you need what is called an access key and a secret. It's kind of like a username and a password. Your access key in and of itself isn't sensitive, although you don't generally want to just share it with anyone and everyone, because your access key can technically be used to then get your AWS account ID. Once again, not sensitive in and of itself, but someone might be able to target you in that way. But it's not overly sensitive in itself, but what is sensitive is the secret. That's sort of like the password is a long string. And so you configure the AWS CLI with a profile using the access key ID and the secret access key, and that's what it's going to show us how to do. If the lab will actually launch for me, we'll see if it does. And I'll probably just, for those of you watching this after the fact on YouTube, I'll do the magic of video editing. So we will stop it here, and I will meet you when the lab is launched. All right, so this part will be edited out. Literally, guys, I was just testing this not that long ago, but of course, when I'm live streaming, something is going to break. Do, 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 do. Don't do crypto mining in the lab. Don't do illegal stuff. Don't try to hack the labs. Okay, cool. Here we are. I'll start. I'm going to edit the video and jump back in here. Okay, we are back. Just took a little bit of time, but we now have the access key and the secret. So let's go ahead and work on configuring this stuff following the steps here. So one trick with the AWS CLI is you can configure profiles. So in other words, we can have multiple sets of credentials saved, and we can make different requests depending on the profile that we are doing. And we just do it by saving it with a profile name. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to open up our terminal here. I'll clear this out, and whoops. Not mean to do that. Just zoom in a little bit for you all, and we'll do AWS configure. I'm going to give it a profile, and we'll just copy what the lab says. And I get cyber is fun, and it's going to ask us for an access key ID. And of course, if you launch the lab, you have that access key ID. So we'll jump over to this and drop it in there. And we want to grab our secret access key, so we'll grab that. Drop it in there. For our default region, it kind of depends on the lab that you're doing, but US East 1 is generally a safe bet. So we'll do US East 1, and I'll hit enter, and then enter again. And we now have that profile configured. Now, if we jump back over to our lab, here's a big thing to keep in mind. You do have to append -- profile anytime we're using those CLI credentials tied to that profile. Otherwise, if we didn't specify a profile, it just saves it in the default profile. But I always like specifying a profile, keeps it cleaner, and I'm usually working with multiple things together. Oh, hey, and we just got a subscriber on Twitch. MyKill86 just subscribed with Prime. Thank you, my friend. Hey, really appreciate the subscription. Thank you for the support and just for your kindness and generosity. All right, finding profiles on your local machine. When we configure the AWS CLI, it stores your information in a config file and a credentials file. So let's take a look. And hey, even a red team tip here. If you are doing a red team scenario, and let's say you get a shell on a machine, this is one spot you want to check. The same way you would check for SSH credentials, you can also check for AWS and Azure credentials in similar folders. So SSH is, of course, .ssh, while AWS is .aws, Azure is .azure, and that's where these files are stored. So I can show you the config profile real quick. If we go to CD, home, Tyler, AWS, You can see we have a config and credentials. If we cat our config, you can see we have our one profile we set up, Cyber is Fun, in the region that we are in. And if we cat our credentials, you can see that the credentials we just added are in the credential folder. So if you were doing a red team engagement and you got shell access on someone's machine, you might be able to pivot into the AWS environment if they have these credentials stored here. So I'm going to go ahead and jump back over to this. If you're using Vim, which I'm not, I always use Nano, but you can use Vim. If you get stuck on trying to exit out of Vim for the next 20 minutes, Christoph is really nice and shows you how to exit out of Vim. We can do the same thing with credentials. He says, I won't show you mine. I purposely cleared all my credentials for this lab, so yeah, you can't get access to my real AWS accounts. Issuing CLI commands. Before we do that, have a chat. Michael said, Hola, I usually watch you on YouTube, but was bored on Twitch. Literally an hour ago, I checked if you were streaming, and then like 5 minutes later, you went live. Perfect timing. Hey, good to have you here. So here is like our who am I command in AWS, right? It's the who am I in AWS. It returns basic information about who we are based on the credentials used. And if you've ever watched my streams, whenever I get new access to an AWS account, I always do that once I set up my credentials to make sure I have access. So in Linux, we can do a who am I, right? And that says my username. I'm going to jump back over to Cyber here. It says my username. Well, of course, AWS has to make it a little bit more confusing. So the typical who am I in AWS, when you first get access to AWS creds, is this: AWS STS get caller identity, and then whatever profile. And ours is Cyber is Fun. And then we have our user ID, we have our account ID, and we have our ARN, or our unique identifier for our object or our user in AWS. And we also have our username. This is our username, getting started with the AWS CLI, and we are Dana. So we have some basic information, the who am I of the AWS world. Let's jump back over to the lab. We are authenticated as a user. When working in AWS, you will frequently use roles, and roles work a little bit differently. So let's take a look at that now. Next, run this command to list out our role ARN. Role name is case sensitive. So you can see the command right here. I'm actually going to go like this. See if this will be too small. I think it will be fine. I wish I could close this tab. I don't think I can, but that's fine. We'll work with it. Let me scroll back down. Although you can copy and paste this out, I always recommend, whether you are learning AWS, whether you're learning Python, whether you're just learning how to use Bash, try not to copy and paste from labs. Try to type it out, because it's important to build a muscle memory as you work on these different commands. Oh, next to my username at the top. Oh, beautiful. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Kappa13. You're the real MVP. I appreciate that. But let's jump back over. Whoops, I think I got way too far down. Here's what I was saying. So although you can copy and paste it, I always recommend typing it out and understanding a little bit about what we're doing. So we're doing AWS and we're doing IAM. Now IAM is like the identity manager in AWS, so that makes sense. We want to list our roles, and then we want to query, and we just want to get a specific role. Now if we just do this, so you can see the difference, it's going to give us a bunch of roles, well, in our account, right? You can see all these roles in our account. But for the purpose of this lab, we just want to find out this AWS CLI role. So we will do that. AWS IAM. I'm actually going to clear my screen. We'll jump that back to the top. AWS IAM list roles, and we'll do a query. And we'll say, hey, here is the role name. Role name equals AWS CLI role, and then we'll close that out. I think my syntax is there. And don't forget to do the profile. Cyber is Fun if you set it up with the profile. Okay, and that information gives us a little bit. So we have the role name, of course. We have the role ID. We have the role ARN, which we're going to need. So if you're following along, you want to go ahead and grab your role ARN, because it's going to be different than mine. And I recommend just dropping it so you have it elsewhere. We have our assume policy document. So we have allow on the root principle, and our action is we can assume a role if our ARN equals Dana. right? Which it does. If you remember, we did the who am I command, the AWS STS get caller identity. This is the ARN for our role. So what this is saying is that this user, us, can assume the role for the max duration right there. And I'm guessing that's what we are going to do. This role has been pre-created by the lab for us, and our user has access to assume it. Copy and paste the ARN somewhere you can reference, which is what I said. This return includes information about the assume role policy document, which is what tells AWS who the role trusts to assume it, and we can see that we have a special condition to allow our user Dana. That's the ARN equals on this condition right here. So if your ARN equals Dana, then you can assume this role. I won't go into more detail right now since it can get fairly complicated, but that's the gist of it. Let me know if you have questions in the comments below. So how to use roles with AWS CLI. Roles are different from users because they don't use long-term access keys. They use short-term credentials. There are a few ways you can do this, but I'm only going to show you one in this because it's a more convenient approach. Now that we know the role ARN, go back to your config file. We're going to edit this file, so I recommend using whatever text editor you're comfortable with, not necessarily Vim. It could even be Notepad if you want. If you're a real hacker, you would use MS Paint to edit it. From here, you'll see your existing profiles, and we need to add a new profile like this. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go to CD home Tyler AWS, and we will do nano on my config. And here is that. And now we just need to set up the profile for the role that we're going to assume. So we'll do profile AWS CLI role like so. And our role ARN, this is the role ARN for the role we just saw in the CLI, and I saved mine right there, so I'm going to copy that just like so. And then our source profile, it would be default if you didn't set a profile, but remember, we set a profile, so ours is going to be cyber is fun because it's the profile with the Dana user that has permission to assume that role. Control X, Y, to save, and now we can actually execute commands as that AWS CLI role, so we can run the who am I command in AWS. So let's try that. AWS STS get caller identity profile AWS CLI role like so, and we successfully assumed that role. Now you can see from this result that we are issuing commands as a role and not as a user, unlike earlier, which looked like user CLI. Right? We have it right here. Our assume role. That's how we know we're doing it from a role. We can now use this AWS CLI profile in order to temporarily assume that role's permissions instead of our user's permissions. And this is what can sometimes lead to things like privilege escalation. If you compromise a user who can then assume a role that has greater access than the user, you might be able to pivot deeper into the environment. And we see that a little bit here. It says this role has access to a file in Amazon S3. Now, you might be new to even Amazon S3. Amazon S3, I just sort of think of like FTP in the cloud, right? S3 buckets are a way of storing files in the cloud. And one of the things you actually check in a pen test or a red team engagement is whether S3 is configured properly. Sometimes, hopefully rarely now, but S3 buckets can allow anonymous public access the same way an FTP bucket can allow anonymous public access. One famous instance of that was the Capital Breach AWS S3 bucket. I believe that was the issue behind that. Let me see if I'm correct. Blah, blah. Okay, so this person hacked it. I think their hack, though, was literally just a misconfigured S3 bucket. Oh, does it not even say? I'm just skimming it, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. Yeah, misconfigured S3 storage buckets. But that's what we're doing here, right? These ones aren't misconfigured per se, but our role that we have access to is access to the S3 bucket, or at least to list it out, and the other role doesn't. So let's try that. Here's an AWS S3 command. I know it looks confusing, but we can do AWS S3 API, list buckets. Let's first try our cyber is fun role. Cyber is fun. And we get access denied. But let's see if our new profile has access to the buckets. AWS CLI role. And you can see with that, we are able to list the buckets. We have the Cyber Data bucket and Christoph plus 12. We can access tonight, etc., etc. How to navigate the AWS CLI documentation. Oh, Michael said, in the incident, Paige Thompson, who operated on the hacker handle Erratic, made off with more than 100 million credit applications that were held in a misconfigured Amazon Web Services storage bucket in the cloud. Yeah, exactly. The S3 bucket. So AWS documentation, we have a list of services. If we search for like STS here. Oh, yeah, there we go. So STS is how we did the Who Am I? And you can see the different things you can do with STS. Get caller identity is what we've been doing, but this is just the AWS documentation when you're looking stuff up. We have a synopsis section that looks like so. These are all the options we can submit with the get caller identity call. And whenever the options are wrapped in brackets, it means that they are optional. Instead, if they're not wrapped in brackets, that means they're required options you must provide to successfully issue the command. There are none for this particular call, but keep that in mind. So conclusion, roles are super important in AWS, as we'll explain and show in a separate course dedicated to IAM roles, which, hey, if you get a sub, you can check that out. But they will also be important in this course for a couple of the flags that you have to capture, which this is a lab from a course. Of course, I'm not going through the course all on stream, but congrats. That's the basics of working with the AWS CLI. So let's just review everything we covered. We figured out how to install the CLI and how to break the install if you accidentally break it while you're live streaming, like what I did, and getting the proper version of the AWS CLI on there. We learned how to configure the CLI with our access keys, the access key and the secret. We learned how to find profiles on our machine. This is helpful, once again, for pen testing or a red team engagement. If you get a shell on a machine, good spot to look to see if you can pivot into the AWS environment is the .aws file, similar to .ssh for your traditional CTFs, and you could grab the credentials from there. We learned how to issue some CLI commands. So remember, basic Who Am I in AWS is AWS STS get caller identity. It provides our user ID, our count, and our ARN for our user, as well as the username for our user. We learned how to use profiles. Of course, I didn't mind with the profile. Cyber is fun. We figured out how to query roles, and this one was limited to the AWS CLI role. And although these policy documents may be brand new to you, you can at least understand a little bit about this, right? We know that it's a assume role policy document, and it allows our user to assume this role, right? And then that role had greater access within the AWS environment. Our user couldn't list the S3 buckets, but the role that we assumed was able to list the S3 buckets. So we got some very basic use case of using the AWS CLI. And if you did not do this alongside of me, I would encourage you to do so. You do learn something from watching a video, but you learn even more by getting hands-on keyboard and working through the lab as well. And you have no excuse. This doesn't cost any money for you. A completely free lab that you can spin up and play around with the AWS CLI. So for those of you watching this video after the fact on YouTube, hope you found this helpful. A big shout out to Cyber for just the incredible platform and these introductory labs to help people get started with AWS CLI and all the fun and confusion that goes alongside of that. So thank you for watching. I will see you guys in the next one. All right, I will edit out the little bugginess at first with that, but let me go ahead and kill this lab. And there's one more lab I want to showcase from here that's a little more red teamy. That's also free. So if you haven't already, for those of you watching the live stream, make an account on Cyber. It's not going to cost you any money to follow along with these labs that I'm showcasing today. If we go to hands-on labs and make this full screen now, view our list of labs. I want to do this one, a little more red team, introduction to AWS IAM enumeration. And we're going to do it manually first, and then I'm going to show you how to automate this with Paku, which Paku is a kind of like Metasploit for the cloud created by Rhino Security Labs, which is where I work. So I'll show you how to automate this entire lab using Paku and some of those cool security tools. So we'll do it manually and with Paku. I am going to start the lab this time before I start recording. I don't know if it will bug out since I had two labs back to back. We'll see if it all works. But for those of you in chat, what did you guys think? Who's using Cyber? Like, does anyone else have a sub on Cyber, have an account on Cyber? Have you gone through any of the labs? Have you gone through any of the courses? And if so, we'd love to hear you guys' thoughts. Oh, I'm actually seeing LinkedIn comments too. So over on LinkedIn, we got Mark Green, we got Dependra. Good to have you all hanging out here. Appreciate it. Neffel said, very happy with the quality. Default Sex said, I started the course but haven't had the time yet due to work. Yeah, it's good stuff. Harrison said, cool lab. I will make an account now. Awesome. Awesome LeBlanc said, I'm definitely going to check it out. Currently absorbed in BCAT CTF. Team Hack Smarter. Heck yeah. And we got P&G over in chat. Hello, hello. Good to have you here, my friend. All right, let me go ahead and we're going to start recording another YouTube video. Grab a drink of water. And we're doing the introduction to AWS IAM enumeration. Free lab. Here we go. Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to do another lab from Cyber, which is CYBR, a platform that teaches you how to get good at AWS pen testing and Blue Team and even DevOps. If you want to be a cloud engineer or a cloud pen tester, this is an incredible platform with high quality courses and labs. The cool thing about this platform is a sub is super affordable. It's right around $10 a month for a sub to get access to all of the material, but they have quite a few labs that are completely free. So in this video, I want to showcase a completely free lab, and we're going to go through how to do AWS IAM enumeration. Now, an AWS IAM is kind of like the user account, the identity access manager. And so during a pen test, that's a big part of what you're doing is enumerating different users and different roles in the AWS environment. And what we are going to do is we're going to go through the full lab. I'll show you how to do it manually via the AWS CLI, but then we're going to automate like everything using Paku. Now, if you've never heard of Paku, it is sort of like Metasploit for the cloud. It is a AWS security tool developed by the greatest pen testing firm on planet Earth called Rhino Security Labs. I might be a little bit biased because I work there, but we really are a pretty cool firm. So I want to show you how to also do this lab with Paku. So we'll get hands-on with installing and using Paku, and we'll get hands-on with the AWS CLI. I just released a video about how to use the AWS CLI. So if you missed that video and you're brand new to AWS, go ahead and watch that video. It'll catch you up to speed and you'll be able to do this lab right alongside of me. And one final thing, I kind of feel silly that I have to say this, but I want to be clear, this video is not sponsored at all by Cyber or any other entity. For those of you who know me, you know that I don't do sponsored videos. So if I am talking about a platform or a lab, it's not because they're paying me, it's because I genuinely learned something from it, or I enjoyed it, or I just want to share with you what I am working on. I don't do sponsored videos. Not only did Cyber not sponsor me, I bought a membership. So I pay Cyber. So they don't pay me, I pay them, and I just appreciate their platform and wanted to showcase some of these free labs and encourage you to follow along with me. So without any further ado, let me go ahead and share my screen. On Cyber, when you log in, you'll be in your dashboard. If you want to follow along, the way you can do this is if you go up to Learn right here and click Hands On. We can click View Our List of Labs. And the lab that we are going to do is right here, Introduction to AWS IAM Enumeration. And once you get here, you will just click Start Lab and it will spin everything up for you. The cool thing about these labs is you do not need your own AWS account. They spin it up in their own sandbox. So you don't have to worry about security issues. You don't have to worry about cost issues. It's all in their environment. I have already done this, so I'll flip back over to this. Once you spin up the lab, but I'll give you an access key, a secret access key, and our username. So let's go ahead and do what we did in the first video. We will configure our profile and then we will work through this lab. It looks like I'm on a timer as well. We have 27 minutes. So this video is going to be 27 minutes or shorter. Let me go ahead and grab the access key ID. I will jump over to here. This is from our previous lab. I'm going to go to my Cyber folder and we will go ahead. I'll make this big for now. We'll do AWS configure profile. I'm just going to call this one Cyber, and I will drop my access key ID in there. I will grab my secret key, jump back over to this. We will do US East 1 for our region, enter on that. And remember from the first video, the who am I command in AWS. AWS STS get caller identity profile, and cyber, and let's make sure everything worked well, and it did. So we are successfully authenticated to the account as the Joel user. Let's jump back to the lab. So this provides us with an environment to practice enumerating AWS IAM to get familiar with the process and warm up before diving into CTFs. I'm going to scroll down a little bit. So getting started, we've already launched the lab. We've already set up our access keys. We already went through the lab that teaches us how to set up access keys. Let's begin with IAM users enumeration. We already did this, the who am I command in AWS, so we can scroll through there. We already talked about that. We talked about what we get back. We're interested in our account ID and the ARN, which we have all that stuff here. And you know what, I'll even go ahead and grab this and we'll drop it in our notes here because that might come up later. If we have permissions, we could also issue this command, get user, and it looks like we do. Let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to pull my terminal side to side here, make my terminal a little bit smaller if it lets me. Hopefully you guys can still see it okay. But we'll do AWS IAM get user, and I do have to use my profile of cyber since I set it up with the profile. And you can see when we do that, it gives us our username, our user ID, and our ARN. So similar to what the get caller identity gives us. So most attackers start off by doing this, of course, which is exactly what I do, both in labs and in AWS pen test, because you want to know what information you have about our user, and AWS isn't going to prevent that call. You could actually set up alerts though. So when you see a user making these calls a bunch of times, you can set up alerts on the security side of it. But let's keep on going. Next, we could try using a call like this to get a snapshot of the configuration of IAM permissions, users, groups, roles, and policies, and the relationships in your account. So you can imagine when you jump onto let's say a Windows machine in a CTF, you often do net users, right? Net users domain. You're trying to figure out the users in the domain, net groups. That's sort of what this is, but in AWS. So it's not going to work. We don't have permission, but if we did, we do AWS IAM get account authorization details, pass it our profile of cyber, and it would work if we have permission. But you can see we're not authorized to perform it on this resource because that's just the wild card on the resource because no identity-based policy allows us to do that. So let's try to enumerate more information about our current user and other users in the account. So once again, in Windows, it's a net user, right, to get that information. Well, in AWS, it's list users, this is one of the few AWS commands that isn't super confusing to me, right? I can understand this. AWS, oh, let me jump up here. AWS IAM list users, profile cyber. And we have some users here. We have Chris, we have Joel, we have Mary, we have Mike, and that is everyone that we have. There are 4 IAM users in the account, and we can list our access keys associated with our user. You can also list access keys associated with other users. You, of course, can't get the secret, but you can see if access keys have been generated for that user. So we will go ahead and do that. AWS IAM list access keys, profile cyber, and you can see our username Joel. We have the access key ID, whether or not it's active and when that key was created. One of the things you actually check in an AWS pen test is you want to make sure keys are being actively rotated, right? If there's a key for a user with high privileges that hasn't been rotated in, a year, 2 years, 3 years, it's actually something you want to let the client know about. All right, now that we have basic information, it's time to dive into the weeds. Let's start trying to enumerate permissions. We can start by listing out user policies, and to save on time, I'll just enumerate the users Joel and Mary. So let's go ahead and do that. AWS IAM list user policies. We're going to pass it our username, and our username is this right here, introduction to AWS. Yours will be different. Profile cyber. Okay, so what is Joel allowed to do? Joel is allowed to enumerate roles, and we can do the same thing to Mary, which I need to go back and grab Mary's credentials, or not her credentials, her account, which is, Mary, where are you? Mary, did you know that you're in my AWS account? All right, let's go ahead and do the same thing to Mary. We'll just replace Joel's username with Mary's username. Okay. What is going on in this witchcraft? Oh my goodness. I don't know what's going on there. AWS IAM list user policies. I can type faster than trying to follow whatever my terminal was doing to me there. And there we go. She doesn't have access to anything. So we can see Joel, the Joel user has a policy named allow enumerate roles, but the user Mary has no policy names. Does that mean Mary has no permissions? No. Confusing, I know, but it's AWS, so it's par for the course. This command only lists our in-align policies, not our manage policies. Also, keep in mind that users are often part of groups, and groups often have policies attached to them. We'll get back to that. Before we list out manage policy, let's retrieve Joel's policy. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll do AWS IAM get user policy. Username, we want to grab our Joel username, which we saved up here, like so. And then our policy name, allow enumerate roles, profile cyber. There we go. So our policy name is allow enumerate roles, and what does it allow us to do? Well, we can get roles, we can get role policies, we can list roles, we can list role policies on any resource in the AWS account, and of course the effect is allow. Dur said, are there any defense evasion labs? I think there are. Well, I'll show you the full labs as soon as we complete this, and we'll see what other labs there are, but I believe there are. Again, this is not the only permissions Joel has. To see what I mean, let's list attached managed policies. So this is the part that's confusing about AWS and you're enumerating. There's these different types of policies, but what I show you with Paku will automate that for us. But for now, let's do it manually. AWS IAM list attach user policies. If I could, I spelled that right? User name Joel. And I don't know how to spell, apparently. What did I spell wrong? List attached user. Oh, not polices. Polices isn't what we're listing. And maybe I should specify the profile. Good job, Tyler. We don't get anything back, which means Joel doesn't have any attached managed policies. It's still worth checking. All right, so groups. So in Windows, right, you do the net groups command. Well, in AWS, we're going to do list groups. So let's give that a shot. I'm going to clear this. AWS IAM list groups, profile cyber. There we go. So we have our introduction to IAM developers, and we have our infrastructure group. So we have a developers group and an infrastructure group. I think these might come in handy later. So I am going to grab these for now and just drop them into our notes. There are two groups, developers and infrastructure. How can you tell which one we're a part of? Well, there's a simple command we can issue. So like net group for your user in Windows, we do something similar in AWS. We'll do AWS IAM list groups for user name, and then we need to grab our username. I should just save this to a freaking variable so I don't need to keep doing this, but profile cyber. So Joel is in the developers group. So now the group might have permissions that Joel himself doesn't have. So we want to figure out, well, what permissions does our developer group have? So AWS IAM get group, we're going to give it our group name. And our group name is this right here. Profile cyber. Okay, so we have our users. Well, we're just getting the group. We're just seeing other users in the group. I see. So in the developers group, we have Joel and we have Mike. We can list out our permissions. That's what I thought we were doing. So now we're going to list out our permissions for the group itself. So AWS IAM list group policies, group name. Do I still have that saved? Okay, I do. And profile cyber. So we have this policy, this devs policy. So now we're going to dig into that policy, like what information is in this policy. And the way we're going to do that is AWS IAM get group policy, group name. You can also see why people have automated this process, because this is a lot of commands to remember. And this is why I'm always confused when trying to do stuff with AWS. Policy name. And we'll grab our policy name from right there, like so. And you need to specify a profile cyber, which I didn't do. Okay, so now we have some information about this. So we can list access keys, like Joel and Mike can both list access keys. And what are the other actions we can do? Well, we can do a bunch of things. We can list group policies, attach policies, users, attach, users, groups, like all the things we've already done. We can do that because we are in that dev group. So although Joel himself doesn't have those permissions assigned to his specific IAM, it's assigned to the dev group, which he is a part of, which is the reason we're able to run all of those commands. All right, now we're talking. This tells us that members of this group have all these permissions, kind of like what I said. And finally, let's see if there are any attached group policies. So this would be another policy in the group, different than the policies we already looked at. I know, confusing, but I'll show you the cool Pacu stuff in a second. We will do AWS IAM list attached group policies, our group name. Do I still have the name there? Beautiful. Profile cyber. And did I do something wrong? Oh, I have I did the policy, not the group. List attached group policies, group name, and then we want to grab our developer name, which I think I saved if I was smart. Yep, here it is right there. Profile cyber. And we don't have any attached policies. But remember, there's another group, so let's go ahead and check out the other group, the infrastructure group. So AWS IAM get group name, and we will go ahead and grab the infrastructure group right here. All right, and so similar information as before, we can see that in the infrastructure group, we have Chris and we have Mary. We can do the same thing with getting the group policy. So AWS IAM list group policies, group name, that, profile cyber. All right, and now, of course, we have to check the policy information. So we're doing a lot of the same thing for these different groups, but remember, the way you learn things on the command line interface, whether it's Bash or AWS, is you just have to do it over and over again so you build up that muscle memory. Some of you know that I enjoy boxing, and when it comes to boxing, it's the same thing. The great philosopher Mike Tyson once said, everybody has a plan until they're punched in the face. When you're punched in the face, that's when you rely on muscle memory, and if you have not repeated the same thing over and over and over and over again, you're going to get beat up. Well, it's the same with technology, same with cybersecurity. It's all about muscle memory. So it feels like we're doing the same thing over and over again, but it is good for you. If you're following along, typing this hands-on keyboard, you're getting a feel for some of these commands now. AWS IAM get, actually let me clear so my face isn't blocking this. AWS IAM get group. Oh, I didn't save the policy though. Come on, Tyler, what are you doing with your life, homie? Here is our policy. Let me go ahead and grab that policy and we'll just drop it in our notepad up here. Like that. And now we will try this. AWS IAM get group policy. Group name, of course, is right here. And policy name is what we just copied into our notepad right there. And we have to do profile cyber as well to make sure we're using the right profile. And we can see that Mary and Chris can do much of the same stuff that we can do. I think those are almost all the same things, right? But oh, they have attached group policies. So remember, our initial group did not have attached group policies. This group does. So AWS why does it do that? AWS IAM list attached group policies, group name, and our group name is infrastructure. Profile cyber. And so now we could dig deeper into these policies, although these are actually AWS created policies. So you can see this one probably gives access to CloudFormation, and this one probably gives access to the Amazon S3 buckets. Oh, just like I said, right? They're AWS managed policies, but that's not all we can do. Instead, let's move on to enumerating IAM roles. Let me scroll up. Am I out of time yet on my lab? How am I doing on my lab? 11 minutes. All right, we got to do this in 11 minutes. I might have to launch the lab again for the Paku side. Yo, Jacob just did the super chat of $5. Yo, Jacob, thank you so much, my friend, for the super chat. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, role enumeration. Let's go ahead and enumerate our roles, which is where we'll often find a lot of permissions. So AWS IAM list roles, and then of course from our profile cyber. We have a bunch of roles here, but from what I can see, we have some AWS specific roles, like admin access is an AWS role. Usually in a pen test, what you're looking for is customer manage roles, because those are roles that customers have put specific permissions in, and that's where you might be able to abuse some things for privilege escalation if the customer manage role is misconfigured. All right. Oh yeah. So it's just saying that there's a bunch of roles. Okay, I'm gonna get out of that. Blah blah. Let's narrow it down. If you already know the name of the role, you can filter like this. So we're gonna do the same command. I don't know why terminal does that, but we want to query, kind of like what we did before. Roles, like so. And the role name we're looking for is support role, like so. And our profile cyber. And you can see we can read the support role, which says Mary is able to assume the role, the support role. So Mary must be part of the support team for internal support. Assumed by the user Mary and not our user Joel. Knowing that if we were an attacker or a pen tester trying to access this role, we might want to try and find a way to escalate privileges to Mary, for example. But that's just the assume role policy document, which tells us who can assume it. That's not the role's permissions. So if we were able to compromise Mary, we have to ask the question, well, what could Mary do by assuming this role? What access does she have in the AWS environment? And that's what we're doing right here. So we will do AWS IAM list role policies, our role name, and it's a support role from our profile cyber. And if I could learn how to type, it'd be a good starting point. Oh, it lists role policies. Oh, my N in name is capital. Come on, Tyler. There we go. So allows S3 full access for the role. And now we want to get the policy, right? So we can kind of guess this probably allows S3 full access, but just in case you want to check that, and we can do that by AWS IAM get role policy, give it our role name of support role, and we have to pass it the policy name that we found, which is the allow S3 full access for role. What are the chances I typed something wrong there? Pretty high. Oh, I didn't. Look at that. So what does this mean we can do? Well, it has a wildcard on S3. So every S3 bucket, we're allowed with the wildcard resource. So this is literally full access to every S3 bucket in the AWS account. So in a pen test, this would be a pretty highly privileged role that we would want to take over, because with full access to S3 buckets, there's a lot of things that we could do if we were able to target the Mary user. So we can see this role as full Amazon S3 access, which should be a target of very high interest to a threat actor, and something as permissive as S3 should be a red flag to anyone reviewing this environment security. So we have successfully enumerated a lot of information. Feel free to keep playing around, but remember there is no flag or end goal here. This is just meant to introduce you to IAM enumeration. Let's see how I'm doing on time on my lab. Is my lab going to expire anytime soon? We have 7 minutes. I think that's enough time to show off Paku. So let me open a new tab here, and we'll just go to Paku on GitHub, and I'll give you a very quick introduction of Paku. I do want to make a course for Paku, teaching people how to use it. But Paku is an open source AWS exploitation framework designed for offensive security against cloud, specifically AWS. It's created and maintained by the greatest pen testing firm on the planet, and current modules enable a range of attacks. So you can install this with pip, super easy. I always recommend pip-x. All right, pip-x. pipx just allows you to install stuff in its own virtual Python environment. So when you have different Python dependencies, sometimes they fight and they don't get along. So you can do sudo apt install pipx if you don't already have it, and then you can do pipx install Pacu in order to install Pacu. I'm pretty sure I have it installed. Yep, I do already have it installed. But then it will spin up Pacu in its own virtual Python environment, just so you're not breaking other Python tools as you're installing different things. But once it is installed, we can go ahead and just type Pacu. It will open up Pacu here, and it says found existing sessions. I'm going to do a new session, so I'm going to type 0 on my keyboard. And it says, what do I want to name this session? Well, we'll just call this session Cyber for now. All right, I am going to go ahead and open this up. Maybe let me even exit out so it's full screen properly, and we'll do Cyber. So now we have a few different things that we can do, but we have to import our keys. So remember, we set up a profile in the beginning called Cyber. So we want to go ahead and do import keys, and we'll do Cyber. That will then import our keys as Cyber, and now we can search for different modules. So if we do search IAM, we have a few different modules that we can do. But one thing that we might want to do is, hey, we're doing IAM enumeration, so maybe we want to know what permissions do we have in the account, and we see a module here called IAM enum permissions, and we can do help IAM enum permissions to get information about that module. And it says this module will attempt to use IAM APIs to enumerate a confirmed list of IAM permissions for users and roles in the account. By default, the owner of the active set of keys is targeted. This is done by checking attached and inline policies for the user and the group. So everything that we kind of did, this will automate the process for us. And we can even specify different users, different roles. Because my lab time is running out, we're just going to do our user that we are logged into, that we have initial access to. Now to run this, we'll do run IAM enum permissions. All right, so you can see very quickly we have 20 confirmed permissions for our user. And now if we run who am I from within Pacu, it is actually going to tell us everything that we already kind of learned doing the manual enumeration. So you can see we have our username, Joel, here. We have our ARN. We have our group. So it tells us we are in the developer group right here. It gives us the ARN for the group, gives us the policy name for the group, and then it's going to break down the different policies that we also have access to. So remember, we have the allow enumerate roles policy. We can list access keys for Joel and Mike, and then we have all of these policies attached to our dev group of all those things that we saw initially, where we can list roles, list users, and all of those good things. So that is one way that you can use Pacu to automate this role in, well, I think that was 5 minutes. Like, the lab itself took much longer. With Pacu, we did the same thing in 5 minutes to get situational awareness in the AWS account and automated the process with Pacu. And that is the end of this lab. So I want to say a huge thank you if you stuck through this lab with me. If you haven't checked out Cyber, check it out, experiment with this stuff, learn AWS. It really is an incredible skill to have, whether you're blue team or red team or a sysadmin. Companies are moving into the cloud. Now, I don't think they're all cloud, but often companies are taking a hybrid approach, and knowing AWS being the biggest cloud provider will be a big up for you in your resume and interviews and all the things that you are working on. So hey, hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully you learned something through the process, and I will see you guys in the next one. Boom. 2 labs knocked out. That's what I'm talking about. I think I maybe missed some questions. Let me look over at chat. Cyber is like arranged, but for AWS learning. Yeah, I can show you guys a little more of Cyber now, just on stream. All right. So in Cyber, actually, I also want to pull up. Let me get this. I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a second. I need to get it from Discord. Give me just a moment for my chat with Christoph. I asked him if this is on the Cyber platform, and it's not yet. He thought it was, but it wasn't. So he's going to add this to the main platform. But he has a really good Notion that gives you like different learning paths. Let me grab that real quick, and I'll share it with you guys. Oh, man, another super chat from Jacob, dude. A second one? Jacob, you're killing it, my friend. Thank you. Thank you for your generosity and for your kindness. over on the YouTube side of things. So I'm going to drop this in chat in all the platforms, so you all have this. Hopefully the link goes through properly. But these are the different learning paths that you can go through in cyber, kind of organized here on Notion. Right, so let's say if we have a blue teaming, here are all the courses that you can go through. Here are the courses for red teaming. We can do topic-based learning paths with all these different labs. So here's the Getting Started with AWS Security. If you click these, it will open up the courses. And once again, if you get a sub, you can go through all of this. Like, you have access to all of this with your sub. And look, there's even an entire course on pen testing AWS with Paku, CloudGoat, and ChatGPT. CloudGoat, if you've never heard of CloudGoat, if I learn how to spell, CloudGoat is also developed by the greatest pen testing firm on the planet. But CloudGoat is really cool. It is a vulnerable by design AWS deployment tool. You can spin up capture the flag style scenarios completely for free. It's all open source, and you can even contribute to it. So, spoiler alert, I will be having a scenario coming out in CloudGoat, a vulnerable AWS scenario that I created with Terraform and CloudGoat that allows you to learn how to use some new Paku modules called SNS secrets. And I even have an accompanying Try Hack Me room with it and everything, so that will be coming out in the near future. But we have a bunch of scenarios in here. You can see them all here. Each scenario comes with a walkthrough, and you can learn AWS pen testing for free using CloudGoat. And if you want to learn more about that, well, Christoph has an entire course on Paku, CloudGoat, and ChatGPT. But that's just what that is. He is working on the Certified Security Specialty course. And I've also done some of the AWS courses through AWS themselves, and I can tell you hands down, Christoph's course are so much better than AWS. AWS courses are super dry. I don't think that they're that well done. Christoph does a really good job on these courses. AWS IAM, you want to learn more about IAM, data security, incident response, container security, privilege escalation labs, multi-account security. So, I mean, guys, so many things. And here's all the hands-on labs. Right, we covered some of these, but hands-on by labs by difficulty. We have all these labs right here are free. So we did Getting Started with AWS CLI. We did IAM enumeration. There's Secrets Manager enumeration. I actually wanted to showcase that lab too. I'll do that another day because Paku has a secrets module that does the same thing. Like, I can show you the full manual way of doing this lab. And then with Paku, if we search for secrets and help secrets enum, the secrets enum module will automate that entire lab. It'll find all the secrets in Secret Manager and System Manager and dump all the secrets for you, and the lab is done. So Paku can fully automate that lab as well. Intro to S3 enumeration, creating buckets, launching EC2 instances, so basic AWS stuff. But as you get up here, a lot more difficult. We have some privilege escalation, some pen testing labs, and then there's some challenge labs right here. Secrets Unleash and Escape Room that are more like CTF, blind, see if you can figure it out lab. So this is the Cyber's learning paths. As of now, this isn't actually on the Cyber platform, but Christoph will add it. I asked him if it was on there, and he's like, no, but it should be. So I know he's going to add it. All the courses on here. I know I already made a video on this, but I'll show you guys, like, at least this course, the high quality nature of it. If I click, I don't know, let's do like VPC networks, and this might look a little bit choppy because I'm watching this in virtual machine, but
when it comes to infrastructure security in the AWS cloud, one of the core components to understand is the Amazon VPC.
Just overall,
no one else can use that section.
You can see like
region,
these courses
and then create sub-network
are not like bad quality, super high quality, well done video content labs that go alongside of it. So truly, Cyber's a cool platform. Make sure you guys check it out if you haven't already. Speaking of cool platforms, there's another lab by another really cool cloud platform called Pwn Labs. I'm trying to think if I have time to knock it out. We've been on for an hour and 20 minutes. Yeah, we got time. Pwn Labs just released a brand new lab, and I haven't even looked at it, haven't had a chance to go through it. And I wanted to do it while I was on stream. So don't know what to expect, but everything with Pwn Labs is high quality. If you've never been to Pwn Labs, seriously, y'all need to check it out. Pwn Labs is sort of like Hack the Box and Try Hack Me, but all for the cloud. So they have pen testing and blue team labs around AWS, Azure, and GCP. Pwn Labs is founded by Ian Austin, who was formerly one of the leaders of content over at Hack the Box. So the Hack the Box quality is really reflected in Pwn Labs, but as it comes to the cloud. Oh, Nefla said almost finished it and the lab is awesome. Cool, dude. I haven't even. How long will it take me? That's the question. I'm gonna stop sharing just while I authenticate over to Pwn Labs. Give me just a second, y'all. All right, here we are. There's also Thunderdome. Thunderdome is like a red team environment. I don't want to show you guys the flags. If I scroll down, you'll see the flags. But Thunderdome is a red team environment that I believe is 9 flags that you have to compromise AWS and Azure and GCP cyber range, and it's available to all subscribers. To subscribe to Pwn Labs, it's around $200 a year for the entire year, and you get access to everything, including the cyber ranges. But let me go ahead and do latest labs. Here it is. I turn the lab on so it has time to launch up. And I think, oh, not a quick lab. I wonder how long it will take me. I mean, I could always do it in 2 parts as well. We'll just see. We'll see if we can make it through the lab. Let's sure everything on chat is good. Let's take a 5-minute break, and then we'll come back and we'll dive into this brand new lab from Pwn Labs and showcase this lab off. We'll do some more cloud pen testing stuff. No cap tire today, not today. I mean, I can always put it on. Here. I actually bought a new hat, guys. I bought a new one. You'll notice it looks the same as my other one. Because when I find stuff I like, I don't change it. I need to make it so it's not crooked though. I had my other hat for like, gosh, 5 years or something, and it was finally getting a little worn out. So I looked at the tag, and I found it on Amazon and just bought the same hat again. Same with my hoodies. My hoodie, like, it looks like I don't change my clothes. I do change my clothes, occasionally. I just have all of the same hoodie, and I actually don't have just a plain black t-shirt on. I actually have a different t-shirt on, but I have like the same black hoodie. I have like 6 black t-shirts. I literally just wear the same thing every single day. But let's take a 5-minute break. We'll be back in 5 minutes, and we'll dive into this lab. So BRB. And we are back. What is up, everyone? Hopefully you, that's not straight. Hopefully y'all enjoyed your 5-minute break. We're gonna dive back into the hacking now, and we've been focused on AWS. We did some AWS labs over on Cyber. Now we're gonna do the brand new lab on Pwn Labs. But don't know if I'll get through it on this stream or not. Don't know how long it is. Neflo says it's not a quick lab, so we'll see how long this takes us. I'm going to start recording for YouTube, and then we will dive into this lab. Everything looks like it's started up for me, so we should be good to go. All right, let me start recording. Hey, what is up, everyone? Welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to dive into a new lab on Pwn Labs, and this is the name of the lab: Abuse OpenID Connect and GitLab for AWS Access. Now, like most times when I work through labs, I have not done this ahead of time. I haven't even looked at the lab, so I'm going into this completely blind, and we'll share with you my learning process, my things that are confusing to me, maybe some alternative ways of solving the lab, and we will do this together. Now, if you've never heard of Pwn Labs, you need to check it out at pwnlabs.io. It's sort of like Hack the Box or Try Hack Me, but all for the cloud. They have blue team and red team, very realistic labs covering AWS, Azure, and GCP. They have over 40 completely free labs, so you can make an account today, try it out free of charge, and to get a subscription, you're only looking at about $200 for the entire year, which also gives you access to the Thunderdome Cyber Range, which is a red team cloud environment, 9 flags that covers AWS, Azure, and GCP to make your way to the top of Thunderdome. Now, anytime I talk about these products, I'd like to be upfront and clear. This is not a sponsored video. Pwn Labs does not pay me. They do not sponsor this video. I am making this video because I really appreciate Pwn Labs and everything the team is doing and all of these labs that they are releasing. So without any further ado, let me go ahead and share my screen. So if you haven't made an account, pwnlabs.io, this account is, I believe, a subscriber only, or this lab is a subscriber only lab. So if you are not a subscriber, well, first go become one and then come back and do the lab alongside of me. Otherwise, if you're not a subscriber, you'll just have to live vicariously through me, and it will be like we're sitting down together at a computer and we will do this alongside one another. Our entry point is we're given our access key and our secret access key. So let's go ahead and copy this, and we'll do AWS configure. I'll just configure my main profile. Well, no, I might as well do a profile. We'll call it Pwn Labs. Let's grab our secret. US East 1. And remember, we just learned this, at least for those of you watching on stream when we're going through the cyber stuff. AWS STS get caller identity is the who am I for AWS, and we are Pwn Labs. All right, beautiful. We are the user pen tester. Let's go ahead and read through this scenario. It says it's suitable for a CTF approach, but even when I was looking at this in Discord, this is beyond my knowledge level as of now. So I'm just gonna go through the lab with the lab. So treat it more like Try Hack Me, a guided scenario, but I might be able to solve it in some unintended ways, or not unintended, alternative ways. But here's our scenario. It is time for an internal pen test, and the huge logistics internal security team have provided us with starting credentials to use for the assessment, which this is generally how it works. If you're doing AWS pen test, it's usually an assumed breach scenario where the client will give you kind of 2 sets of credentials. They'll give you a set of read-only credentials to the AWS environment, and they'll give you a set of credentials that a typical developer would have and ask you, hey, do a holistic pen test, see if you can elevate privileges, see what information you can get with these standard credentials. So can we capitalize on a critical finding and show the client how overly permissive settings can lead to a breach? I don't know. Hopefully we can. The defenders have planted a flag for us in case we can escalate our access. So our lab prerequisites: familiarity with the Linux command line, familiarity with AWS, and familiarity with web-based Git repos. Our learning outcomes: use CloudFox to gain situational awareness. I'm going to try to use Paku, so I'm going to try to do it a different way. We'll see if it works or not. Leverage OpenID Connect to exfiltrate creds and files from AWS. Enumerate IAM policies. Assume an IAM role to escalate privileges. Retrieve sensitive user data from the EC2 instance metadata service, and enumerate and retrieve secrets from AWS Secrets Manager. looking at these, Paku can do a lot of this stuff. So I am going to show you guys a different way of doing this. CloudFox is also a cool tool. I've used this in another YouTube video where I go through it, but I've been digging into Paku myself. Actually have a few pull requests on Paku to improve some things. So I want to try to use Paku, because if anything's broken in Paku, I will work on fixing it. I'll make a pull request to the Paku repo and we'll see if we can fix it. And the best way to figure out if things are broken is just to use it. So I'm going to use Paku, see if there's anything I can fix or add to Paku as we work through this lab. Real world context. When enabling OpenID Connect for ID federation between GitLab and AWS, the official GitLab documentation recommends that role assumption be restricted to a specific group, project, branch, or tag. However, we see multiple instances on GitLab forums or Stack Overflow of people creating overly permissive role assumption policies. Oh, so I bet anyone can assume the role, whether for convenience or to overcome problems. As AWS account IDs are not considered by AWS to be sensitive, and given that it's possible to brute force the principal discovery within a given AWS account, threat actors could capitalize on such misconfigurations and assume the role. So I think it's called like the confused deputy problem. It's like if they set it up so any AWS account can assume the role and you can figure out what that role is, then even though you're not in their AWS account, from your account you can assume the role and get access. I think that's what it's talking about. So let's start the engagement, which we've already set this all up. We have our pen tester user, and you know what we should be doing is taking notes. I'm going to stop sharing my screen just while I log into Notion, which is what I use to take notes. All right, here we are, and I'm going to make another note for this. Let me just grab the name from up here. I'll just call it Abuse OpenID Connect to keep it short. All right, we'll make it full screen. We will go ahead and do full width, and we'll go ahead and just get our credentials and stuff in here as well. All right, access key. Paste it like that. I know what that is by looking at it, so I don't need to label it. So we have our credentials there, and we'll say our scenario is this. All right, that's our credentials, that's our scenario. And now what we're doing first, I should record the information, the get user identity, so I'll just grab this as well, and we'll just call this like enumeration, and we'll drop that information in there. So we have our ARN, our account name, and all that good stuff in case we need it later. So trying to list, manage, and inline that may be attached to our user isn't successful as we don't have permission to enumerate the policies. I'm just going to see what it's going to use CloudFox for. Okay, I think I know what they're going to do. Let me try to use Paku to do the same thing, because I just fixed something in Paku. It's not, the pull request isn't even approved, but this is a really good test scenario. Let me go ahead and go over to Paku. If you never heard of Paku, it's like Metasploit for the cloud created by Rhino. I'm going to go ahead and pull this down. I think I'll be able to just run it. All right, beautiful. Okay, but now what we need to do is there's a brute force module in Paku, but initially the brute force module only checked permissions related to EC2, log, and S3, which of course makes it not that useful, and it just didn't work well. I think it's probably one of the first modules made for Paku, so I spent a lot of time this week fully rewriting this module, and I used the enumerate IAM library by this person over on GitHub because it works really well and it checks all services. And I replaced the brute force module with his library to brute force the permissions that we might be able to get access to. But we can go ahead and grab this. I'm going to check out this pull request. All right, beautiful. And now if I do the CLI.py there, I'm going to do a new session, And we'll just call this one Pwn Labs. I'm going to import my keys from my Pwn Labs profile. That's what I called it, right? Okay, cool. And now if we search for IAM, we can see all the different things we can do with IAM. I don't think we're going to have permissions to do this. It's actually what it was trying to do in the lab manually. We would need some of those permissions to run this. But if we do help IAM enum permissions, you can see that it's going to attempt to use IAM APIs to enumerate a confirmed list, but I think we're going to have to brute force. But we can go ahead and try this. Let's run IAM enum permissions. And you can see we cannot list groups, we cannot list users, we cannot do any of this stuff. So instead, we're going to have to brute force this. So if I do search IAM, we have this brute force permissions one. Now, if you're following along, at least at the time of this recording, this pull request has not been merged into the main Paku branch. So you'll have to switch to my pull request for this to work for you. But that it'll probably be merged shortly. I'm going to do run IAM. Well, let's do help, right? Help IAM brute force permissions. Hopefully this works too. This is a good test. So it says this module will automatically run through all possible API calls to supported services in order to enumerate permissions. This uses the enumerate IAM library from Andres, and then we just need the region. So let's do run IAM brute force permissions. We'll give it the region US East 1. And it will go ahead and start trying to enumerate this. So you can see it's already getting us some of our permissions back. So we can list users, we can list roles, we can get users, we can describe DynamoDB endpoints, we can do our get caller identity, we can get a session token for our user, and it's going to take a few minutes for this to work. So if you're running this normally, it's a good time for a coffee break. While this runs, I'm just going to peek ahead at the lab and see if what I'm doing is going to discover the information that we need. Let's see how they're using CloudFox, in other words. So they install CloudFox, and they're running all checks, which is just going to check a bunch of stuff in the environment. And so the first thing that's going to save is list users, which are, we should be able to do that ourselves with Paku. When this is done, there's also IAM users module. So when this is done brute forcing, I should be able to do that also with Paku. We'll be able to list all the users. There's going to be 3 users, Bob, Luis, and Pentester. So I should be able to do that with Paku. And then examining customer managed roles. I think Paku will find this as well in the current brute forcing, maybe. But there's going to be an engineering and a GitLab Terraform deploy role. And this output right here is from CloudFox. If I can't do it with Paku, I'll switch over to CloudFox. But all they're doing here is catting out the full role there, grepping the role name, and then they're removing the AWS managed roles. They decode it to get the policy information, the assumed role information. Okay. All right. So to recap, this means if we can authenticate with GitLab.com, we can assume the GitLab Terraform deploy role and associated privileges. Ideally, this trust policy would have additional conditions. Okay. Let's see what Paku is all able to do. Of course, it's going to take a little bit of time because we're brute forcing. And there we go. It is done there. So it says we found 7 IAM permissions. We can run who am I. So what does it allow us to do as our Pentester user? We can get user, list users, list roles, get user, get caller identity, describe endpoints. We cannot list group policies. Let's go ahead and just grab this information for our notes. We'll just grab this full thing right here, and we'll jump over to Notion. And then we want to get the users as well. So let's see if I'm able to do that with Paku as well. So if I jump back over to Paku and I search IAM, we ran our brute force permissions. Here's what might be helpful. Enum users, roles, policies, and groups. Let's do help on that. Help IAM enum users, roles, policies, groups. Okay, this module requests the info for all users, roles, customer managed policies, which is exactly what we're trying to do, and groups in the account. If no arguments are supplied, it will enumerate all 4. If any are supplied, it will enumerate those only. So what that lab took quite a while to do manually with CloudFox, I think we can automate all of that with this Paku module. Let's go ahead and give it a shot. Run IAM enum users, roles, roles, policies, groups. Boom, done. So we found 4 users, we found 11 roles, no policies and no groups because we're missing needed permissions. I thought we had those permissions. Oh, I guess we can't list groups. We just list users and list roles. Okay. So 4 users, 11 roles, all that. And it says it's saved to the Paku database. If we type data, we should be able to see the information here. So we can check this out. So we can see our current permissions here. And now we can look at users. So we did successfully get all the user information, right? We have AWS management user. So this is an AWS account, but we have Bob, Luis, and Pentester. We can grab all of this, right? We have our users. All right, let's jump back over to our terminal. What other information did Paku get for us? So we have roles, although this is an AWS role for Amazon Inspector, so that's probably not going to be interesting to us. Oh, we got a raid with the party of 1, but that counts. The Shy Hat. Thank you, my friend, for jumping by and hanging out. Appreciate you being here. We are doing some AWS pen testing with Pwn Labs. Raiding with the party of 1. Dude, it is all good. I remember, like, for the longest time, that's all my stream was just me and one other person, and that one other person was just my phone watching my stream to make sure everything was good. So really do appreciate you being here. And for those of you guys in chat, let's give the Shy Hat a follow. Let me see if I can pull him up. Well, let me pull it up. Give me a second. Oh, I'm noob at Twitch, but the Shy Hat, check him out. See if I can pull him up on here. Here he is, the Shy Hat. All of you watching this right now, I know we have quite a few people on YouTube. What do you have on YouTube? About 20. So we got 40, and then a handful on LinkedIn, almost 50 people watching. Yo, go give the Shy Hat a follow or a subscribe over on Twitch. Oh, I'm not logged in on Twitch on this one. I will follow you on my other machine when I'm done streaming. But thank you again for the raid. Appreciate it. All right, jumping back over to this, looking at the roles that we might have here. These are all AWS roles, so once again, not super helpful. Okay, here's the engineering role. This is one that we needed to find, and on the engineering role, it says it allows engineers to assume role, and 2 of our engineers are Bob and Luis, or Luis, whatever that is. Let's go ahead and grab that. We'll add that to our notes. Right, engineering role. Boom. And here's the other role, the GitLab Terraform Deploy role. And it says allow GitLab to assume role, allow. So I think here's the issue here. Anyone with a GitLab account with an AWS connection would be able to assume this. It's an overly permissive role from what I can see here. Let's go ahead and just grab that. Zach said, had a dip, but now I'm back. What are we doing? We're doing some Pwn Lab stuff, using Paku to hack stuff. Yeah, the Shy Hat. We're doing some cloud hacking, my friend. We are working through this lab on Pwn Labs called on OpenID Connect and GitLab for AWS Access, but I'm doing it a different way. The lab uses CloudFox. I'm using Paku. Paku is kind of like Metasploit for the cloud. It's developed by Rhino Security Labs, which is where I work. That's where I'm a pen tester at, and I have some pull requests. I've been contributing to Paku. I contributed the last release, the upcoming release. I'll also be a contributor on there, and so I'm just trying to get more familiar with Paku myself and just keep making it better. So we were able to do the beginning of this lab, from what I could see, took quite a bit of manual commands and enumeration to do this. But with Paku, I was able to knock this thing out. Dang, we're using company tools on the off time. Yeah, dude, Paku's amazing. Like, open source AWS exploitation tool. Same with CloudGoat. It's a super cool tool, and it's pretty widely known as well. And it's all developed by our little team at Rhino. And so, like, I have a few. Like, one of my last pull requests got approved, but I have one here. We just use this to brute force permissions. I fixed the API gateway enum module. I also fixed another enum module, but that one got merged. Oh, you're doing S3 stuff bucket over at HackTheBox. There you go. Well, welcome to the party, pal. We'll keep doing some more cloud stuff. So all this extra work that the lab had to do by using CloudFox, once again, couple of commands is all it took me, and I did all of it with Paku. I don't think I missed anything, right? I have all the information that they found. Paku just did it a lot better. Okay. I need to understand this, though, for my own learning. An AWS and OIDC, or OpenID Connect provider, is a service that allows identity federation. AWS integrates OIDC to allow users authenticated by an external OIDC compliant provider such as GitLab to assume an AWS IAM role and access AWS resources. In this case, the company has enabled the integration to allow GitLab users to access AWS resources for automation tasks such as CI/CD. The key aspects of this document are: principle. The policy specifies that the entities authenticated by the OIDC provider associated with the specified AWS can assume this role. And we saw that right, scroll up here, right here. Right? The condition, anyone on GitLab that has that can assume this GitLab Terraform deploy role. Oh, yeah, condition, blah, blah, specifies the request must originate from GitLab and match the audience URL, but that seems overly permissive. This condition is very broad, yes it is, and doesn't restrict access based on specific projects or branches within GitLab, potentially allowing any GitLab authenticated user who meets this audience condition to assume the AWS role. It's easy to make this overly permissive configuration with one example here. Let's check out this example. Hey guys, I followed this document to configure OIDC to retrieve temporary credits. Somehow it didn't work. Here's the message. This is my role trust relationships config, which you can see it looks like they did it right at first. They're restricting it to a specific branch. Getting the same here. I'm not sure helpful or not. In case of SAS, this role worked well. Oh, look at that. This person is saying, use this role. This will fix your issue. It will fix the issue, but it is super overly permissive, and you're going to get pwned. Wow, interesting. Shai said, I've never heard of Pwn Labs at I/O before. Gonna check it out. Check it out, dude. They have like 40 completely free labs. The sub's only $200 a year. But it's created by Ian Austin, who is one of the former content leaders at HackTheBox. So like all the high level HackTheBox quality is there, but it's applied to the cloud. And they have labs that cover AWS, GCP, and Azure, both Red Team and Blue Team, as well as a large Red Team network called Thunderdome, which is 9 flags across all 3 environments. So if you like HackTheBox and you want to learn cloud stuff, Pwn Labs is an amazing high quality platform for that very purpose. So absolutely, my friend, be sure to check it out. But that's crazy. Here's someone in a forum suggesting do this because it will fix your issue, and it will. Was this upvoted or anything? I don't know what forum I'm on. This will fix the issue because it's just going to give access to anyone on GitLab. Of course it's going to fix it. You need to limit it to a specific path or a branch to prevent this attack from happening. So once again, a very real world attack. This isn't just some random CTF puzzle. This is real world that we're looking at. We can retrieve more details about the assume role policy document with the following command. Well, I already have all that because thanks to Paku, it already did it all for me because Paku's amazing. So to recap, this means if we can authenticate with GitLab.com, we can assume the GitLab Terraform deploy role and its associated privileges. Ideally, this trust policy would have additional conditions that limit authorization to a specific group, project, branch, or tag. Mind blown. Our exploitation. So the idea here is that if we can elevate our privileges by exploiting the overly permissive OIDC configuration. If you don't have one already, you'll need to sign up for a free GitLab account, which I don't. We're going to set up a project and CI/CD pipeline. All right, let me do that. All right. Here, I'm not going to share my screen while I set up this account. You guys will just have to look at my face. 1 second. Use my Hack Smarter throwaway email. Complete verification. What do you mean? Oh, I have to solve a freaking puzzle? Pick the dog. You guys don't see the puzzle, but it's a very hard puzzle. I'm a robot. Chill, cat. All right, I gotta accept the verification code. There's a cat in the room. Yeah, he is. He's on my feet meowing. He always wants to make an appearance when I'm on stream. I'll pull him up and I'll show him off in a second once I get this from my Hack Smarter email. I have to add a phone number? Definitely. I don't mind sharing my email and everything on stream, but I'm definitely not going to share my phone number. Oh, I got to solve another puzzle. Pick the dice pair with the same icon facing up. The frick are these puzzles? That one. Oh, I have to do multiple ones? Oh my goodness. Sorry guys, I have to solve puzzles. Pick the dice pair with the same icon facing up. I just did that. This one. All right, one more puzzle. Pick the dice pair with the same icon facing up. Bet. I'm a human. Oh, now I have to verify via my phone. All right. All right, I'm almost done, I think. Do. All right. Here we are, ladies and gentlemen. I've set up my GitLab account. It just took me a second. Are those CAPTCHAs easy to bypass as APT? Dude, I can barely bypass the CAPTCHAs myself, and I'm a human. Hey Mood said, please tell me I'm not late. Never late. I'm still here. You're still here. We're not late. Please don't fail the Are You Human check. I almost failed it. But here I am. I am a human, just barely, but I am still a human. All right, once signed up, create a new project. No, I'm not going to add an SSH key. So here's a project I did create. Do I need to create a new one? Guys, I don't even know how to create a new project in GitLab. I only use GitHub. The frick. Can I just rename this one? Can I rename this project? How do I create a new project? Maybe I need to go out. New project. There we go. Okay, I'm going to create a blank project. And I'm going to call it Abusing OIDC Providers Lab. Using OIDC Providers Lab. See Providers Lab. Then navigate the settings. All right, let me go ahead and do this. Create project. Sankelp said, how long do you think it'll take me to get up to speed to do such cloud-based labs successfully given my limited knowledge of AWS, which I'm currently actively learning? Thanks, I love your streams. Just dive in, dude. That's the best way to learn. The cool thing about Pwn Labs is you can see what I'm doing. They have a lot of introductory labs, but all their labs have full detailed walkthroughs for every single lab. So even if you don't have AWS experience, honestly, just dive in head first and spend a lot of time on each lab Googling what you don't understand. Oh yeah, Shahad, I did that. I remember doing that machine learning to bypass CAPTCHAs. It was created by, I think it was created by my friend Amoeba Man, a good friend of mine. He also created the Red Team Capstone and TryHackMe and all the AD networks. But yeah, that was a fun challenge. All right, navigate to settings, CI/CD, and then under the variables, click something. Settings, CI/CD. Cat, what the frick are you doing? Dude, chill. We're on stream. No. Can you guys hear my cat? He's trying to get into a cardboard box or something. I don't know what he's doing. I don't know if you guys can hear him. He's loud. Cat. Hey. Stop. Stop. No. Freaking go to bed, dude. The only time this cat's awake, I swear, is when I'm streaming. Freaking cat. Alright. Under variables, click add variable. Alright. Bet. We need to create the 3 variables below with the following values that have been with the following values that have been provided. Okay, I think I understand. I'm going to throw these side to side. Okay, so the key is AWS. What the frick, cat? Stop. 1 second, guys. Stop being dumb. Sorry, guys, I had to sacrifice my cat. He won't be an issue anymore. Just kidding. I give him like a minute. Okay, AWS config file with the following values. Oh, it's telling me what to do right here. Okay. So for the AWS config file, we need to type cat stop. Just go to bed, dude. My goodness. All right, environments all. Visible, does that matter? Protect variable checked. Export variable reference checked. Key AWS config file. And then this is our value. We must be filling in those other variables. All right, now we're going to make the role ARN, which is variable default. All default, our flags is export variable reference. I don't see that. Do they mean expand variable reference? And then our key is going to be our role ARN for the GitLab Terraform deploy, which should be this from Paku, I believe. Oh my goodness, Tyler. Add variable. All right, our next one is the web identity token, which is going to be, this one wasn't file, was it? Okay, cool. So the web identity token is going to be file, environments all. We have our flags, protect variable, and export. I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be expand. Expand variable reference key, web identity token, and our value is this GitLab OIDC token. Okay, am I done with my variables? Next, navigate to code and repository. Okay. You can choose to download the repo locally. We're just going to use the web IDE. Wait, go to... We'll create a new GitLab YAML file in the root of the repository. Okay. GitLab CI.YAML. The following GitLab CI/CD configuration, provided it uses an AWS CLI Docker image to execute commands with AWS Credit authenticated via OpenID Connect. This configuration sets the AWS region and specifies an OIDC profile. The job named OIDC uses an OIDC token with GitLab as the audience to authenticate with AWS. The script in the job runs the AWS CLI command. Dude, it's already midnight, guys. I just realized. AWS SCS get caller identity to display details about the AWS federated identity to hopefully confirm that the authentication process is correctly configured and operational. Okay. Makes sense, I think. Hit Control, well, yeah, we'll save it. Hit Control S to save the file, and then click the branch commit icon. Right. Cat, go to bed. It's midnight. You're not supposed to be awake. Yeah, I'm Central Time too, 8-bit Oni. All right, click and continue. We push the file to the main branch. In the GitLab console, navigate to build jobs. Let's make sure it showed up there if I refresh here. Okay, yep, we have it there. In the GitLab console, where's the GitLab console? Am I blind? Build jobs. Oh, here we go. And you'll see a new job running. I did something similar to this on TryHackMe for the CI/CD stuff, I think, if I remember right. Oh my goodness, it worked. You guys see that? It successfully assumed the GitLab Terraform deploy role. That's insane. That's with fully unauthenticated access. We had authenticated access to find the misconfiguration, but once we found it, this is just a GitLab account I literally set up minutes ago, and we just gained access to the AWS account. That's honestly insane. That's pretty cool. And we can perform whatever actions this role is assigned. We would just modify our command. Terraform and CloudFormation are common infrastructure as code languages used to manage cloud resources. It's also common to store these automation files in any output files such as Terraform state files in an S3 bucket. Let's see if we can enumerate S3 buckets, update the script section of your code, and repush the repo. All right, I'm going to go ahead and just get 2 tabs open here. Because I have a feeling we're going to be editing this code a bit. So we just need to update this code with whatever we want to do, right? And it will then run. And here would be the job, right? It's running right now. All right, nice. We found a bucket. Hopefully we found a bucket. There it is right here. We found a bucket. Okay, that's cool. All right, I'm not going to document all my steps there that I'm done, but we'll document the important stuff as we work our way through it. Continue to update the commands and enumerate the bucket's contents. All right, let's go ahead and do that. We'll jump over to this. So we'll do AWS S3 LS S3 like that, and then we just need our bucket name right there. Pretty sure my syntax is right anyways. And it would just be like that, I'm pretty sure. Am I right? Yep. Oh, you don't need the S3? Just AWS S3 LS. Okay. Save that. Commit to main. Go back to jobs. Here's the job. Oh, it's going to find a key for an EC2. Then I bet we can enumerate the EC2s. We discovered the files backup.txt and ec2.pem. Let's download them. All right. And we did, right? Right there. I just realized this isn't bash. Switch that back over to bash. Okay, this is a really cool lab so far, y'all. So create a GitLab artifact by updating the script as follows, then repush to the repo. Oh, I see. So we're gonna hit our bucket, and right now we're gonna sync in order to download to our current thing, and then we're gonna make these artifacts. Okay, so AWS S3 sync S3 like that, right? And then artifacts like so, pass, and we want backup.txt, and we want the ec2.pem. Save, commit, jobs. And we'll view the job. What is a bucket? Is it an AWS term? Yes, bucket is just what they use for storage. I call them S3 buckets. Think about it like FTP in the cloud. It's kind of how I think about buckets. FTP in the cloud. Oh, shoot. The following arguments are required. Pass. Oh, I bet I spelled it wrong because I'm dumb. Well, I did not spell it wrong. Oh, I forgot this on the end of my on the end right here. I need to specify the path on the end here, right? My current directory there. That'll fix it, I bet. Commit to main. Jobs again. Grab our job. Tito Cybertech said, first time watching live. You are amazing, man. I've learned a lot from your videos. Hey, well, thank you, dude, for the kind words. And thank you for joining the party live late at night. We are after midnight now trying to do this. I do need to eventually go to bed, y'all, but it is Friday. My kids will maybe wait an extra hour before they wake me up tomorrow. All right, so we successfully downloaded those at backup.txt. And is this now? Okay. Oh, look at that. We have backup.txt right here. Okay, I'm going to go here. CD, I don't know what to call this, GitLab. Make directory. All right, let's grab that other one. Can I just copy over to I'd probably need to extract it first, eh? We'll just extract it to Pwn Labs. GitLab. There we go. All right, I have both of those now. What's this for? Okay, I don't need this stuff. All right, beautiful. What is in this backup.txt? We have our policy for pen tester, view IAM permissions. Manage that. So is this stuff in secrets? Oh yeah, we have a secret right here. Some TP password. Okay. All right, let's jump back to our lab. Oops. Unzipping artifacts, we find that backup.txt contains Terraform output related to the user Luis, including their AWS credits. Oh, did I miss the... I must have missed that just looking at it real quick. Luis there. Oh, right here. The ID and the secret. Those are their creds for Luis. The PEM is an SSH key as expected. Maybe there are deployed EC2 resources. Let's see if the keys work. Create a profile. Okay, let's go ahead and give that a shot. I'm going to copy this to our notes. All right, and let's go ahead and do AWS configure profile Luis. And we'll grab our access key ID right here. And grab our secret right here. Let's do the standard who am I command in AWS for the Luis user. And we have access. Beautiful. Now we could enumerate like what access Luis has with Pacu again. We could import those keys into Pacu. Let's see how the lab does it. And then I'll try to do it via Pacu depending on what we're doing. I could probably make this big again. Zoom out. And they have permissions to enumerate IAM permissions. So let's try with Pacu what we all get. So I can't do that, so we'd have to run IAM. And that will kind of do its thing. I'll even rename this Paku, but we'll also do it manually over here, just following the syntax from the lab. We're just listing our attached user policies. Paku will find it, but just for the sake of time, I will just copy this. Ours will be a little bit different because we have to grab the right username. Oh no, the username is just Luis. Okay. And we have an attached policy called view IAM permissions. You can imagine that probably allows us to view IAM permissions, but we don't have permission to enumerate EC2 instances. But remember, Luis is able to assume the engineering role. We saw that in Paku when we were first enumerating. If I didn't clear the data up here. Right? Here's it here. We have our role name of engineering. Right? And Luis is able to assume that role. Role session name, Luis Engineering. So this is just the AWS command to assume the role. Could I do it? Could I do it with my config as well? Might be a little bit easier than that long command. Home Tyler AWS config. What if I go like this? The profile name they want us to use. So I don't actually, I think this will work. It works in my head. Nearing like that. And the role ARN is this one right here. Our source profile would be Luis. I spelled that right. Role ARN, engineering source profile Luis. Let's go ahead and save that. And if I do the STS get color identity as Luis Engineering, and it works successfully. Boom. So I was able to do it that way as well. So once again, when I do these labs, I like to show alternative ways of doing some of these things, right? We'll just say maybe even grab a screenshot of that. Cat home Tyler AWS config. There's our screenshot. And we'll just add that to our notes on how I did that. Whew. Sorry, I'm missing a bunch of stuff in chat. I'm trying to pivot from SOC analyst to pen test. Any good advice? I have a video on that, but my best advice would be OSCP. If you don't have the OSCP, you'll want to get that, and then CVE research. If you can get a CVE, which are easier to get than it seems, that will really help you stand out on the pen testing side of things. Soundcop said, when can we expect more epic music drops? Please answer my noob question. I got my Cali booted up in my black hoodie on. I don't know, you can't rush music. I have to be in the mood to write music and make music. I can't force myself to be in the mood about music. John over on Twitch said, do I know about iPhones? I mean, I know something. I do iOS pen testing. I know a little bit about iPhones. All right, let me. All right, so if you follow the way I did it, you don't have to worry about setting the session tokens because we saved it to our config, and we should be able to do this. Yep, I assumed the role myself. All of that worked. The role does not have permissions to enumerate EC2. Oh, it does have permissions. and we find a private IP address. So let's go ahead and do that. Once again, though, I could do this with Paku. Did this brute force finish? It did. So Luis, which we would have saw, Paku did that all automatically for us. You can see it has a policy view IAM permissions, and then it can describe endpoints, get session token, get caller identity. Now let's import keys Luis engineering, and let's search EC2. And we have a few different things we can do. We could try to do EC2 and Noom. So if we do help EC2 and Noom, it's used to enumerate the following EC2 data from a set of regions, instances, security groups, elastic IP, blah, blah. And if we don't know the region, it's in US West 2. I wouldn't have been able to guess that. We can, I think it will automatically do all regions. So let's run EC2 enum. And we'll just say all regions. And, okay, you get the point. It would eventually go through it. I don't feel like waiting, though. It wouldn't take too long. Where's US West 2 on here? All right, we're just going to do the region. But you can see if I let it go through, it would eventually check all the regions and find it. Okay, so it found one instance, and it found one public IP address. I think if I do data now, I thought that would give me here's the instance here, right? Here's our public IP of our instance right there. We'll just copy this for our notes. So once again with Paku, and we have this public IP right here, and I bet we can use our key to connect to it. Let's see how they do it in here. So Paku just automatically did a lot of this stuff, and there might even be more information in here, right? What else did Paku find? Do we find any user data or anything? Maybe not. I think if I search EC2, help EC2 download user data. That's another thing I always like to do if there's an EC2. We need to give it our instance ID with their region. Let's just try that. Run EC2 download user data. Oh, I thought it would have already got that. Does it need subnets? Oh, wait. Cannot access user data where it's not associated with the value. Maybe it's just no user data there. I'm not sure. I don't know how to use this module. Let's just try this. We'll just let it do its thing while I manually enumerate as well. We'll see if it eventually finds it. Anyways, back to this. So we have, of course, the IP. We can guess like the SSH user, such as EC2 user Ubuntu, which is common stuff. So let's see if we can get to this. Do we need to use the public IP, or because I'm on the VPN, do I use the private IP? Here it's showing the private IP. Well, those permissions might actually already be ready. Ubuntu at Let's try the public IP first, and then we'll try with the private IP. Do. Is it possible to attain your Apple ID if you can get hold of your IP in my keylogger monitor over cellular? I mean, if you're keylogged, yeah, I guess. Complete AWS noob here. What must I focus on AWS Council to learn more about cloud pen testing? Well, in the beginning of the stream, I showed some basic AWS labs, so those videos will come out soon, but just learning AWS CLI type things, but I'll have some videos coming out on that. Tito said, OSCP too expensive for me, father of 3 with a disabled wife that I have to take care of. So then do CVE hunting. That's what I would recommend. I have a couple videos on CVEs, but the one I recommend is like, it's called How I Found 8 CVEs in 2 weeks or something, and I walk through the full CVE hunting process. You get some CVEs on your record, that's free, doesn't cost you anything, and in my opinion, it makes you look cooler than someone with the OSCP. OSCP just means, hey, I passed the CTF. CVEs means you did real security research, and it'll help you stand out. And if you put the time in, like a week or two, you can get a CVE. They're not as hard as it seems. Okay, so maybe it's the private IP that I want to connect to, possibly. This is like stuck in a loop. Yeah, CVE. Oh, we got this Tito Cybertech. Yeah, absolutely, dude. Happy to help. But yeah, CVE hunting is where it's at. But okay. Let me jump back over to my notes because we have the private IP here. John, your questions, my friend, are outside of the scope of my Twitch chat. I can't give you security advice on your iPhone without knowing you and knowing the context and the situation. You're best off going to a local IT place and having them help you with your phone, but I'm not that person. All right, let me grab the private IP here. Go over to this, and let's try this. Hey. Oh, okay. I'm confused now. Isn't this exactly what I'm supposed to be doing? We know. Does anyone see something I might be missing here? Actually, didn't Nefo say this here? 1 second. Let me check Discord. Yeah, I think Nefos had the same issue. He couldn't connect to the machine. I can connect to the machine, but it tells me wrong key, but I'm doing everything right. We might, my friends, have to pause this lab. And I might have to just ping Pwn Labs and be like, hey, I think this part is broken. Yeah, it doesn't work. Unfortunately. Am I almost done with the lab too? Gosh, I am. Oh, well, we'll have to pause the lab here. I'll just splice these videos together. So if you're watching this after the fact on YouTube, no big deal to you because it'll just jump to the the next part. So I'll splice it together. See you guys in the future. All right, now I'm just on stream. I'm gonna go ahead and ping Ian on this real quick. 1 second. Just gonna share my face. One second, y'all. Just posting this. All right, give me just a second, y'all. I'm grabbing, this is going to be a little bit weird because I'm going to watch my own live stream to grab the time marker that we were just at. So when I drop it in Discord, they'll see it. Well, I don't know if that'll actually work. Let's see. Yeah, I'll have to wait till I'm done doing it, I think. Yeah, I can't share from a time on a live stream. I'll wait till the live stream's done. All right, guys. It is 12:30 at night. I should probably get ready for bed. Though I'm not even that tired, to be honest. But I think we made it as far as we can in this lab. I think there's a minor bug with the EC2 and connecting to it. So we'll have to wait until they fix that bug before I can complete the lab. 8-Bit Oni, are you doing this lab as well? Did you have an issue as well? I want to make sure it's not just me, but I'm pretty sure it's not just me. I think there's a bug in the lab itself. Let's go ahead and find someone to raid though. I kind of doubt. Oh, Nephilis had the same issue. Okay, so it's not just me. The lab itself is bugged, so I'll make sure to ping them as soon as I jump off here. Nobody else is streaming from InfoSec Stream, so I guess I'm not going to raid anyone. But there's me, so that's cool. I'm the coolest streamer, obviously, since I'm actually online. So guys, I think I'm just gonna call it a night. Oh, Nephilis said Reset the Lab had the same problem looking at Airplane. Dude, I'm gonna DM you on Discord about Airplane. If you figured out how to get user.txt, you'll be my hero if you show me what I'm missing. But guys, thank you everyone for hanging out on the stream. Appreciate all of you being here. I won't be on stream tomorrow night. I'm actually being interviewed on a podcast. Yeah, I can show you guys that real quick. I'll be on, I think it's called the Stats on Stats podcast or something. Yeah, this one. So I'm being interviewed for this podcast tomorrow night, late tomorrow night. So I don't know how often they release episodes, but one of their upcoming episodes will be with me. So stay tuned for that. That's tomorrow night. But because of that, I probably won't be jumping on Twitch and streaming because I'll be doing the interview with them. But we'll be back early next week. Have a bunch of videos that will be coming out on YouTube next week. So if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube, please do. That's my main platform. So Tyler Ramsby over on YouTube. That's where you can get all my past videos, all my current videos, all my live streams, shorts, all that stuff is all on my YouTube page. So if you haven't subscribed to me on YouTube, please do. That's my main platform. But thank you everybody for hanging out, and I will see you guys in the next one.